Hello and welcome to A Crack in the Vault.
Crack in the vault.
Boop, boop, boop.
Crack in the vault.
Ding, ding, ding.
Crack in the Vault. This is the after show where we talk more about Disney stuff than we did on the main episode.
Southern motherfucking Democratic Republicans. Oh.
We curse on this show.
Yeah.
Get it together.
If you don't remember. This week we are talking about the 2016/2020
Yeah, what do you call it? Like,
musical
what year did it come out?
video extravaganza Hamilton, which is now streaming on Disney Plus.
So let me start. Everybody and their mother's been talking about Hamilton since like
Day
forever,
one.
since
Right.
2016.
Except for us.
And I've honestly not been. I have to have the experience to care.
Correct.
So for me,
Yeah.
like I can't. I mean, I could just listen to the music, and I have heard the songs before,
Mhm.
but to me, it's not a thing
Right.
until I get the
Yeah.
whole experience.
Exactly.
I refused
So-
to listen to it. I didn't listen to it. I didn't pay attention to it because I couldn't get a ticket, and I don't live in New York, so I didn't really care.
Me
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
And-
That's like my mindset for most musicals.
Right. So a lot of so we live in, which you guys probably know this. We live in like Central California, and we're relatively close to San Francisco, which is a main hub
Got
for
the
shows.
Orpheum.
Right.
And LA, but LA is much
Yeah, the
farther for us.
Pantages is too far. Orpheum is.
So the Orpheum in San Francisco is a place where most of us have seen like our versions of off-Broadway shows.
Lots of Disney
Um,
ones
I saw
and
Aladdin
Wicked.
there.
Well, yeah, they have everything there, not just
Aladdin.
Disney
Lion
stuff.
King.
Yeah, they do everything.
But
there.
so Hamilton has been there probably for quite a few months at this point,
Mhm.
obviously
Yeah.
before COVID hit. And they did a very interesting lottery system where you could put your name in and you would be entered in for tickets for 2 or 3 days down the line, and you would get it at an uber discounted price, really
Right.
good seats, just to make sure that these tickets were selling out.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, these were like
They would have anyway,
fantastic
but yeah.
seats.
Right.
But it's like on a Tuesday.
I
Yeah.
know.
It's like on really
Sucks.
weird days where they might not have sold out just because of the day of the week. And I know many people who have won.
I know a couple people.
And
Yeah.
one of my friends, who's a listener of the podcast, Kayla Deirdrick,
Shout
she
out.
won twice
What?
in like in a month period.
How much were the tickets? Like she
They
got
were
them,
like 30 or 40 bucks.
Shut up.
So she
they were like
went-
nosebleeds or no?
No, they were
They were
really, really
nice
good
seats.
seats.
Nice.
Like I want to say she was in mezzanine or something. But
Okay.
It's
anyhow,
not even bad.
no, that's like my preferred
Can see
area.
that
Yeah, I
faces.
love mezzanine.
Yeah, so this is something that like people have been able to like add to the hype of, but I still was like, But before we move any further forward, every time Hamilton has ever been brought up in my preview or purview, I've always thought about Andre
Yeah, me
and
too.
Andre's
Oh, yeah.
thoughts on a certain someone, which I think he's talked about on the podcast before.
Andre's
but you-
previous hatred
It's been a
for
while.
a man named Lin-Manuel Miranda.
No,
So,
okay.
I
let
really-
me just
You gotta
explain.
explain yourself, Andre. Why do you dislike Lin?
It's
So,
freaking hilarious.
okay.
And when Moana came, it was the Moana
It was the
episode.
Moana episode.
Because
which
you were
is-
like, he was like, Lin-Manuel
Which is-
Miranda wrote this music.
Stop it.
You're right, and that was early.
The
podcast.
Moana episode is
Which was, like,
episode 2
6.
of the
Oh,
podcast, okay?
2? Okay.
So
Love Moana.
I haven't discussed this in a while. But yeah, Lin-Manuel
Over
Miranda
100 episodes ago.
You used to
over
get
100
so
episodes
mad.
ago. He was just a sore spot for me personally. Like literally personally, because
Bless you, Luis.
in college I was roommates with a very good friend of mine, and we were friends in high school, and then we went to college and became roommates, and that was a mistake, right? You know this if you're
Don't be roommates.
Don't be roommates with your best friends, okay? It's a bad idea. So I had a falling out with Manny. That was his name. Had a falling out with my friend, but during our friendship, my friend had told me that he is cousins with Lin-Manuel Miranda. He brought me a CD of In the Heights back in like 2008 or something like that, and you guys was like, you gotta listen to this. It's on Broadway. My cousin's a freaking genius. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And and then
Didn't
after we had our falling out, I was like, you know what? Forget Manny and forget Lin-Manuel Miranda, okay? I don't give a crap about either of them. Oh, I can curse on this. I don't give a shit about either of these fools. They can go suck nuts. And
I don't like that guy's face. I don't like.
He's
Lin
talking about
Miranda.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, not Manny.
Oh no, I don't know Manny.
Yeah.
Manny could. I don't know him, but
You don't like his face.
We don't know him.
I know Manny. I went to high school with Manny.
Yeah.
Move along.
Anywho.
Sorry, Manny.
Sorry,
You're
Manny.
listening.
Yeah, once again, yes, Manny. If you happen to pay for the Patreon and you listen to this episode, I no longer hate you nor Lin-Manuel Miranda. Okay.
Because of Hamilton.
Hamilton saved America and it
Because
saved.
even though you liked Moana, you liked the music, you were still being a little bitch
I was
about
still
it. He was like,
curmudgeonly
fuck
about it.
Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote this music. Blah, blah, blah.
Which
Like,
is hilarious.
and I never
because that
understood
was-
why he was so upset about it. I was like, you need to calm down.
That
This
was
dude wrote
almost
some good-
3 years ago,
Yes,
which
and
is
then
hilarious.
after that, he wrote one of the songs for Star Wars: The Force
Yes.
Awakens in like the cantina.
And
or
Andre was
whatever,
like,
and I was
fuck him
like,
still.
all right, I mean, I guess it's an okay cantina song or whatever. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I guess it's
hella
fine.
bitching about
And
it.
Whatever.
then we watched this Hamilton musical. So Andre and I both had not listened to it. Honestly, I had no interest in it because I don't really like historical stuff in
Mhm.
general. Like, it's just not my jam.
I
I
had a heavy
don't-
interest in it because I do like history stuff, and I knew
Oh.
that this was a rap musical, which I had never heard of. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
I knew it was a rap musical, but because it was history, I didn't really care.
right. And that it was completely cast with people of color.
I didn't
in
know
a-
that.
In a,
I didn't know
in a
that.
historical rap musical. I was like, okay, that's pretty up my alley.
I didn't know that to the point where when we were watching, I think it was like on the second song in the musical, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that those dudes were supposed to be white. And Andre was like, yes, Michelle, you're right. They're black people playing white people. And I was like, okay, I just need to make sure. Because like that's more normal for them to do that and nowadays. And like even when we go to see like Frozen 2 at Disneyland, like Elsa 90% of the time is black.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they just do that. But because I know already who Elsa was, it like I put two and two together. But I was watching this being like,
So
There's
Aaron
these
Burr was a black
black
dude?
and I was highly convinced that Aaron
Hold on,
Burr
Aaron
was
Burr
black.
was a sexy black dude?
Oh, he was a sexy black dude for sure.
Oh, no.
His name was Leslie.
Oh,
What?
no. Founding daddies.
And so then I
Y'all
felt
nasty.
bad founding daddies for sure.
Okay, first off, Hamilton
David
was no
Diggs
daddy.
up in here.
He was
Yeah,
no
Hamilton was not a daddy.
daddy.
Get out of here. John Lawrence, all the others, they were daddies, but not Hamilton. So then when I told my mom to watch this, we went to her house, right, and we're watching the first scenes, and I'm looking at my mom because she doesn't know jack shit about history. She likes to pretend she does, but she does not.
Mhm.
And my dad was a 6th grade history teacher, so he knows history. And so my dad's, like, really enjoying it, and I was like, Mom, I just want to make sure that you know that those people aren't really black. And she was like, what?
They weren't really black.
And I was like, all right, it wasn't just
Oh,
me
that
then.
they're not black facing.
yeah.
They are black. But the
Yeah,
people
but the people
historically
that
were
they're
not.
portraying were not black. And she was like, oh. And then today when she came
It
over,
was 1776.
today when
babe.
she came over, she was like, you know, those people, I was just thinking like they were black. I was like, Mom, you're so
Founding
dumb.
fathers of our
work
country.
it.
Brenda.
They all signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
So
you imagine where we would be if that was not, if that had been the case?
that'd be wild,
Yeah.
son.
It'd be a whole nother kind of country.
Granted, they did talk about slavery a little bit and stuff in this, but I think at first, like, I didn't put that together, and honestly, because I knew nothing about Hamilton, like, I knew it was supposed to be a rap thing, but I didn't, like, I just, like, didn't put it together in my brain because I didn't know anything about Hamilton.
Right.
And honestly, did I remember who Lafayette was and all these people? Absolutely not. So they
Right.
could have been black to me. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention in history
A
class
French
because I didn't
black
care
dude,
about history
Lafayette.
that much.
I love it.
Yeah, French dude, Lafayette, you know? I don't
Yeah.
know.
So that's the basic history. I absorbed the basic premise of the show through pop culture and through
Sure.
through the
You okay with
the word
Lenny
around
now?
town.
Lin
Yes, yes,
Manuel?
yes. Once again, as this time has gone on, and I experienced Moana, and I experienced the Star Wars thing, and he was in Mary Poppins Returns or whatever, I have grown to like him as a performer, an actor, and a writer.
Hey, you should have taken more advantage of your friend knowing him.
Probably. Yeah,
You
maybe I
fudged up.
shouldn't have burned that bridge so long
Shit,
ago.
man.
Ah, damn. my Broadway days is over. But if you hire me, I'll get some smooth trills, baby.
Fuck that and your smooth trills.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
Anyways, I and Andre, I'll speak for us both because we both ended up really enjoying it
Yes.
and liking it. We've watched it completely through twice, but we've listened to the album. I lost count now.
Yeah, several times.
Several times.
I've listened to it a bunch.
Because once I get obsessed with one song, then I listen to it over and over again, and then you kind of get tired of that one. So then you skip to the next one, and then you get obsessed with it, and that's been the course of my 2 weeks. And I think it's kind of dying down now. Like, we listened to it today, but I'm like, okay, I think I'll go back to my EDM music now. Like, I think it died down a little bit, but
So-
I haven't listened to a musical in so long
Yeah,
that
we
I was
haven't
just
had a hype in a long time.
Right.
that I was just so excited to like sing some new songs or like rap them in my car, like
Yeah.
some musical stuff. Where I was like, ooh, this brings like it was just like a good change of pace.
I want to
too.
say like my last hype musical was like
freaking Wicked for me.
Wicked, probably.
Yeah, it was
like,
Wicked for me.
I'm trying to remember when Rent was with. No, it was Wicked because Wicked came out after. Like in
Rent was pretty
progression-
hype. Pretty hype.
And
too.
Andre and I-
Rent was hype
Yeah.
for me.
A month ago or so, we went through a little musical thing where we were watching like Sweeney Todd
We
and
watched
like
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera because I had
Phantom of
never
the
seen
Opera
it.
was hardcore for me. Like
Really?
like
Oh,
freshman.
I did not like it.
Sophomore year of high school, I was like,
Right.
That's
when-
the point of
Goodness gracious.
sexual tension.
Yeah.
I hated it. Oh.
That was like when I was getting my first kiss and realizing that like a man had a penis, but I
Yeah.
hadn't ever seen it or
Right.
touched it. I
Yeah.
was like,
yeah,
oh,
that makes
oh.
more sense. Do you saw that video I
It was a
sent you
point of
about
no
the
return.
wearing a mask is cool, and it was like guy from the Phantom of the Opera, sure.
that was
Dude
actually
was so creepy. Okay, anyways, moving on. The
Gerard
point.
Butler was sexy as fuck. You take
See,
that back.
This was the opinion that I had of that movie.
I was not digging that movie
Because
at
when
all.
when I had heard about it, it was when all my fangirl friends were hearing about it too, right? And they're just going crazy about how cool Gerard Butler was, and so I was like, yeah, I think it's a pretty good movie.
No.
Everybody I remember seems
No.
to like it a lot, but that was 14-year-old opinions. Is
I
what
Well,
kinda-
it's funny because when you rewatch the movie, it's very slow.
right.
But when you watch it on stage, it's like technological
better,
genius
probably.
because you have like a multi-level stage.
Yeah.
That
Like
chandelier.
the chandelier crashing, you just see like what musical theater can be
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for
on
sure.
a grandiose scale. When this was like just kind of made into a movie that was too long and too slow.
Right.
Too
You know what I
long
mean?
is correct.
But the
But
music is gorgeous.
The good thing about Hamilton is it didn't feel too long to me. I liked actually the simple stage that just
yeah,
had
the set was easy.
Right.
just had the
Rotating center.
rotating, which is kind of common now. They do that at Disney too
But
with like Frozen.
It
and
looks
stuff
really
like that.
cool mixed in with the
Um,
choreography.
Yeah,
stuff like
and
that.
they made it simple. I like simple sets like that where it's just kind of like the same set and you can just change out some stuff. The dancers wear simple things so that they stand out more almost with their dancing and things like that. And something that was very interesting about getting to watch this is just close-ups on their faces. So Andre and I had watched like the extras stuff, you know what I mean?
The
And it was saying that
post-interviews or
they
whatever.
filmed 2 different shows and they also had them do it without an audience as well
Sure.
so that they could get like close-ups on their faces and things like that, which of course makes complete sense. So it's definitely a different perspective than watching it on a stage, but I enjoyed that still. I think I didn't get the full effect of the dancers because even when I was rewatching it the
Exactly.
second time, I was trying to look in the background more for the dancers because let's be real, when I watched Newsies, I was not paying attention to the main people. I
No.
was literally only looking at the dancers because
Right.
that's just what it's about.
Speaking of
You
the
know what I mean?
Newsies, did you know that the 90s version of the Newsies has Christian Bale in it?
I did know that. I have
It's
never
Christian
seen
Bale
it.
and everything.
But yeah, Christian Bale is in
We
that
just
movie.
watched Prestige on Friday, and he was in that too.
I only knew he
Christian
was in
Bale.
it because I saw like a picture of it pop up on because I was like IMDbing something and a picture of it popped up and I was like, oh my god, there's a guy with weird teeth. It has to be Christian Bale. And I clicked on it
With
and it
weird
was Christian
teeth.
Bale. I have a weird thing about his teeth.
I
but
think that might have
anywho.
He's
been
just
one
a
of his
weird-looking
first
dude.
movies, actually. As a young man.
No, he would have been really young. But anywho,
Well, Emily, I know you only saw it once, and you made the comment that usually when you watch things the first time, you're not super into it. You need to watch it
Yes.
again.
yes.
And I will say, watching it the second time really did it for me. I was like, wow, because you can just pay attention to things more. You already
Yeah.
know what the storyline's gonna be. You know what I mean? So you can
Yeah.
get those details. But did you still like it the first time?
So, okay, so here's my overall, like, critique or review.
Mhm.
Overall, I liked it. It was a good show. There were fantastic elements.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I didn't like the characters. I did not like the female songs. I feel like the female
Any of 'em?
songs, in general,
Right.
because I don't really remember
Like
them that much.
Angelica or Eliza?
No, just in general, I feel like
Oh,
the
okay.
female songs were just not up to par with the male songs. And I guess I just come from like that musical background where like the female songs are just rock hard. They
Right.
just like
Wicked, yeah.
they just attack you.
Yes.
And the male songs do too, but this I feel like the male songs were just on
Yeah.
another level, and the women's parts were just so like
And Peggy.
And I will say right
the
now,
songs were. I'm sorry, they were annoying to me.
and I
Sure.
will say
think it
right
was
now that
hold on, pause. I
okay.
think it was supposed to be done that way
Mhm.
as a juxtaposition between like males having
Power and status.
power and status, and the women literally just like traipsing behind them, trying to get their word taken
Right.
out and everything.
Yeah.
But I was like in the Helpless or whatever song it was, Weightless. I was going to pull my eyes out.
I love that song.
Nope.
So I agreed with you the first time. I was like, Eliza sucks. I don't like her. And then I watched it a second time, and I liked the female songs a lot more.
Okay.
And
Right.
the Satisfied song that Angelica sings, the one where they like rewinded everything, and then she was like rapping about how she liked Alexander. That's my favorite song.
I think that's
love
one
that
of the most
song.
powerful
That
songs
one's
in
the
whole
better
show.
one.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
female ones, yes.
Right.
But there's plenty of ones that she sings, like where she's just talking about burning his
Yeah, it's
letters.
like
I'm like,
Burn
whatever.
and,
Like I don't
I should
care.
pull up
I
the
don't
track
care
list.
about like a lot of the ones
But
that she
that
sings.
song could have been the song
Right.
of the second act.
Right,
That's
right.
why I feel
Yeah.
like I think of like in Les Mis when they sing not the dream one. What's the other one? Where she's walking through the street and she's like crying and not that
Oh,
one.
Like right before she dies.
No, not her. Not I know all the names of these
Oh,
characters.
the sad
and it's-
part.
The sad part.
That's all sad.
I'm done.
Sure.
It's okay. So like if you're thinking of the movie version, Eddie Redmayne likes Amanda Seyfried, but it's the other girl who's singing to him because she's really in love with him and she's
Oh.
never going to be noticed
Oh, okay.
when we walk down the street.
Yes. The
I need
the
to
brunette.
watch the Les Mis again.
she's
I love
walking
that
around.
shit.
The point of the story is that is a symbolic song,
Yeah.
and it was so touching and moving. This burn could have also been that way too.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it just was like,
It didn't
I'm going to
hit.
burn your letters. All right. All
Yeah.
right, moving on.
I agree with you about the
Because
women.
then she has such an important like ending of this entire story.
Yeah, I
Right,
love
yeah.
Which I
ending
think
stuff.
to myself, like, okay, well then why wasn't she that important
She
to
took
the
herself
audience?
out of the narrative, remember? And then she put herself back in when he died.
Girl, you're quoting the lyrics. I know, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't feel like she was
Right.
like triumphantly taking herself out of the narrative and then literally inserting
Yeah.
herself back
Yeah.
into the story.
It's very
Yeah.
interesting because the Eliza character, she's
A little more
introduced this kind of like the background love interest to Angelica's foreground love interest, and then later on, you know, the son dies and she's there and she's hanging out and she's sad, and then he dies. Oh yeah, spoiler alert for this show. Sorry.
That's
And,
history.
well, yeah, that
My
too.
mom was so pissed when I was like, he died. She was like, are you serious?
And so he dies, and
Yeah,
and
he
the
actually does.
and the show is ending, right? And then all the spotlight is put back onto Eliza, but you really didn't get, like you said, like a really good relationship with her throughout the show. I mean, she's there and she's important to a certain extent,
Mm-hmm.
but it really feels like she's playing background to both Hamilton and Angelica and even the son, Philip, at
Which
certain
I
times.
appreciate because that was time period correct.
Right.
Yeah,
she would
which is
have,
true.
but I would have liked that moment of connection with her before you're going to be like, okay, now she's super important
Right.
because I was like, I don't really care.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I know that sounds mean, but I didn't
Yeah.
have any connection with her.
Sure.
But
I
in
feel
that.
general, the show was fantastic.
Yes.
The freaking 4 gentlemen,
Oh, David
Well,
Diggs. I'm
besides-
obsessed with you.
besides, Hamilton,
The
the other
others.
3 were just fantastic.
Plus
Yeah.
Aaron Burr.
Plus
Oh
Burr
my gosh.
were
he's
fantastic
amazing.
on both sides. Washington, was good. Luis loved Washington.
He was
really
awesome.
loved
I
He
love
was
George
good,
Washington.
but the other ones I think were just star-studded.
Yeah, the guy who plays Washington plays Moana's dad. He sings
Yes.
that song.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so once Andre pointed that out, I was like, oh, all I can hear now is
I know,
that
right?
song.
His name is Christopher Jackson, and
Yeah.
he plays a man named George Washington. Like, he has the most presidential name
He
for
totally
a dude who
does.
plays a
Definitely.
president.
Well, Leslie Odom, who plays Aaron Burr, hands down star of the show. He not only plays Aaron Burr, but he basically is the narrator of the entire
I
thing.
kept saying that to
Which
Luis.
I-
I'm like, he's totally the narrator.
Well, if you go back and you listen to it again, like, he literally sets the stage for every song, and he just comes in, he's narrating everything.
Which is
Mhm.
interesting.
Like, that dude, hands down, and he has, like, the most beautiful voice when he's singing, like, the Theodosia song or whatever. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Like, you have the voice, like, this smooth voice of an angel. Lo and behold, he's a jazz singer, so right now,
No
so that
doubt.
makes freaking perfect sense, you know what I mean? But
He's
I
really
love
good.
him and David Diggs.
Extremely
Oh,
strong
freaking
performances.
hilarious.
so
from both
who's
of them.
who's your favorite character? Not who's your favorite actor or who's your favorite like song, but like 'cause
Like Hamilton
they play different characters, right?
Yeah. So David Diggs, he plays Lafayette in the first act,
Jefferson.
and then he plays Thomas Jefferson in the second
Well,
act.
all three of them, the other three guys, they all play dual roles.
Right.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So
Yes.
which one is your favorite character?
That's a good question. I think, honestly, out of everyone, and it's kind of only dawning on me now, but I think out of everyone, my favorite character is Aaron Burr.
Mhm.
Because he has this whole arc that's parallel to Hamilton's, where he goes along and he's trying to make a name for himself and stuff like that, but he's doing it in much more like weaselly ways
Mhm.
than,
I was way more invested in Aaron Burr than Alexander Hamilton.
than Hamilton was and stuff like that. And he just gets to espouse so much more emotion because of it in his background songs and his narrator songs. He's like, I want to be in the room where it happens, and how does this guy get to get all the things when I don't get anything, even though I'm doing things the wrong way, you know?
Yeah.
Which it's funny because at first, I will say this, I didn't think at first that he was Weasley because
I don't
really
either. I still kind of don't.
I kind of see myself in him when it
okay.
comes to like political things.
Right, yeah.
Like,
yeah, me too. I'm like, I ain't
bef-
trying to die. I
Well,
feel him.
well, before a lot of the civil unrest that happened now, because I feel like I wasn't a part of it.
Right.
And I felt 100%, if you had asked me maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I would have told you I have no faith in our political system.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to make this like a thing right now, but just my personal opinion is that I didn't feel like my vote even mattered.
Right.
Like I can't do anything.
Mhm.
And I would have
Everything's,
told
like,
you
useless.
before all of this like what has happened since George Floyd's just absolute
Yeah.
Devastating
just
death.
devastating events, I would have told you that protesting does not matter
Right.
because I honestly didn't think it
doesn't
did.
work. Yeah.
But because of if I had watched Hamilton at that point, I
Mhm.
would have been like, "Ooh, I'm pretty Aaron Burry."
Right.
Right? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
make waves. I
Mhm.
don't want to like step over people's feet. I don't want to
I'm
burn
just gonna
bridges.
Stay in the background
Because-
and do my own thing.
Because
and
that's how I would have understood.
Yeah.
But
Right.
now it's so interesting that this came, that it came out in the time period that it did,
then, right.
Yeah.
and that it came to Disney Plus at the time that it did. Because now that I'm watching it with kind of a new set of eyes that I feel very differently about all of this stuff,
Mhm.
I'm like, damn,
Right.
like we can look at him and think he's Weasley when he's just like doing what he's trying to do to survive.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's kind of why this show feels so good
Relevant.
to watch. It feels very relevant. It feels revolutionary. You know,
Yeah.
it feels very strong in the fact that it's coming out right now. And when it was premiering on Broadway, it was during the election year
Sure.
where Trump got elected. You know, so I'm sure it felt just as powerful then. But I think honestly, it probably has even a little bit more power right now, especially since it's being broadcast
Yeah.
all
Sure.
over the place.
I think the
on Disney
reason that
Plus.
I related to Aaron Burr more, Alexander Hamilton, every time he was like, I see death is right in front of me, I was like, you need to shut your trap. Like, I'm over you. I relate to Aaron Burr a lot because me personally, am terrified of death. And so he's like, I ain't trying to do nothing that's going to get me to die because I'm
Right.
like the only one left alive in my family. And I'm like, I feel you. So that's why like I related to him a lot more. But like favorite character or favorite, if we're like taking out Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, because basically they're equally both leads in this thing.
Mhm,
Like
sure,
if
sure.
we're like doing favorite like
Just character.
secondary character.
No, just any character. It doesn't matter if they're leads or not. Just like, who's your favorite character?
Oh, then freaking Lafayette, dude. I loved that.
Lafayette.
See, for me,
He's a French.
I have
Lafayette.
I have two. Just their
Neck
for
and neck.
just complete different reasons.
The Lancelot of the Revolutionary Set. He
My
was my
favorite-
Who
I
are
liked
yours,
him.
Emily?
The king.
Jefferson
Yes.
Yeah.
in that first part, Jesus
When
Christ, he
introduces
came out.
himself.
He just came out like the 70s. Like
Yeah.
he was
He did.
just like working
What
it.
did I miss?
And the king.
Freaking King
King
Oh my
George.
God! I
I
forgot.
forget
I'm
about
sorry.
I forget about him, but he's
I'm sorry.
the comic relief that was needed in this.
I kept looking at Luis and I thought Luis was gonna hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Did he love
And
him?
Luis was like gonna piss his pants.
Yeah.
It was so perfectly constructed and crafted because
Yeah.
he does nothing.
Oh my God! His body movements during the
He
first
literally
song,
only moves his shoulders in that one part, and I was dying.
he
laughing.
does the super sexy model walk up the stage, right? And then he proceeds to stand completely still,
Completely
with his
still.
face almost completely still, singing a pretty
Yes.
rangy song.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Jonathan
God.
Groff is a
Jonathan
genius.
Groff
Oh, I love
kills it,
him.
and it's so funny. And he starts spitting like a maniac.
Yeah, and then Andre and I read a thing, and
Did you
apparently
see the thing about the tweets and like
he's just a spitter.
he's a spitter?
He's like, yeah, I'm a
I
spitter.
spit all the time. I spit on
Spit all-
audiences every night.
he's like at first I felt bad about it, but now he's like it's part of the
I just
experience.
embrace it, dog.
Disgusting.
It's the wet
bro.
zone up
Oh
here.
My favorite of the King is when they're singing the Reynolds pamphlet song, and they're all like, "He's never going to be president now." And King George comes out, and he's like, "Oh," and he's just like doing a little jig. Where I was like, "You need to get off the stage because I'm gonna cry." It's so funny.
I can't because there really is no other comic relief in this show. I mean, Jefferson is
He
to a
is,
point.
because I
Right.
think there's one point where they're like singing and it's sad, and he's like, "Can we get back to politics,
Right.
please?"
Yes.
Yeah.
But
like, thank
but
God.
it's not like true comedy.
Yes.
It's
No.
like more satirical.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
oh my God, that King George shit, so good.
It's so
and
funny.
it's so needed. He is only on stage like a total of 3 times,
Mhm.
but every time he's on stage, he steals. He just freaking
Yes.
kills it. Jonathan Groff.
well,
dude.
and then when you think about
John Adams.
when you
I know him.
when you think about like historically what the King of England was doing at this time, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about everything.
Well, he's the one that
but,
went
like,
crazy.
but he literally had no sway on the
Right.
non-United States at that point, but like of the Americas and the colonies and stuff, other than taxing and sending his soldiers in.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
hilarious that he literally is not moving.
Yeah.
Because he is
Kill
showing
your
doing
friends and
anything.
family.
he's doing
To my
nothing
mind,
on
you are
stage,
my
so
love.
it's really funny to watch that engagement. It's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
very nice physical portrayal.
Everybody.
It's hilarious the whole
I
time.
Good God.
I still think the most hilarious part was when he was freaking dancing to that "He's never gonna be president now." Yeah, he's doing like this thing with his hands.
I
It's all
wish
like
you could see Andre right now.
he did it perfectly too. So good. But I mean, A+. I'm probably gonna go back to this a bunch, and honestly, with the time periods that we're in, number one, people need a musical in their life, whether they realize it or not, and it brought me a lot of joy, and it brought me some interest in history. Was everything, and I'll just put this on the line, was everything portrayed perfectly? Absolutely freaking not. You know how many
No.
slaves Jefferson owned?
Right.
But
yeah.
like they did talk about, I think it was like in the cabinet battle, and Alexander Hamilton's like dissing on Jefferson. He's like, "We know who's really doing the planting."
Right.
Like
yeah.
they talk about it and they touch on it, and I really like that they do like the John Lawrence thing where he's like trying to have a black battalion. And I think when we were watching interviews with Lin-Manuel Miranda, he was even like, "Great, I want you guys to be talking about this.
Right.
I only have 2.5 hours of your time.
Yeah.
I put as much stuff that I was in there." Was Angelica already married when she met Alexander Hamilton? Yes, but it was way more interesting to me if she wasn't
Yeah.
for entertainment purposes.
This
So
is a
I'm
piece of
changing things. It's
a
a
piece of art.
It's
Yeah.
not. He's an artist, so he doesn't have to be historically accurate. Who's inspired by something, and he was like, I love when I get tweets when people are like, "Well, actually, this and this and this happened." He's like, "Well, guess what? I just made you go look up history, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because nobody was doing that before, and
'Cause nobody gave a shit.
right.
and nobody
yeah.
was having these conversations about black lives and the
and-
founding fathers, and that most of them had slaves and things like that. Like nobody was talking
Yeah.
about that. So he was like, great. Like he's like, it's
Yeah.
a different world that it's coming out of now than 2016, where it was a very Obama era, and this was like amazing that there was all of these
Yeah.
black actors and actresses on stage portraying this, and now it's almost like I think Daveed Diggs was like, it's like a step backwards. He was like, it's coming out now, and people are like, whoa. Like, how relevant is it? It's still relevant, and it's going to spark conversations.
Right, yeah.
So it means it's doing what it's supposed to do. Like, I still really enjoy it.
No, well, and I think that that's like one of the most interesting pieces that I've seen a lot of people on Instagram and on social media, like
Wanting to take
sparking
it down. Oh.
what?
Oh, there was like this thing, and it was like hashtag take Hamilton down. Like, they
Oh.
want Disney to take it down because they think it's racist.
Oh, right. Well, those are idiots. We don't have
Well,
to listen to
why
them.
do they-
Go
what?
ahead.
We'll go into that later.
No, that's not what I was going to
Sorry.
say.
I thought
No,
that's
no,
where
no.
you were going.
No, I was just gonna say because I sent Andre, Michelle, and Luis were in like a group text or Instagram DM or whatever.
Mhm.
I sent them this thing because I've been seeing a lot of these kind of like questions about Hamilton
Right.
popping up, and it's so interesting. And it's exactly what Michelle was just saying. How it's like the portrayal of the founding fathers is sparking conversations that none of us would have had, and I think are really important conversations
Yeah.
because it's so cool to see these obviously very white men portrayed in people of color. And no, Hamilton did not get to Hamilton as a show
Mhm.
did not get to touch on everything that was important at the time, but it
can't.
did get to show inequities that we can now talk about afterwards.
Right.
That we wouldn't have had the opportunity, just like Lin-Manuel Miranda's saying, we wouldn't have had this opportunity to talk about these things because, number one, you didn't give a shit, but number two, now you can look at, which is very important, the monuments that are being taken down.
Yeah, he talks about that too. He's like, yeah, you guys are like, it's sparking conversations.
Right. So now we
Right.
can say, like, okay, well, to me, I feel like Washington's one of the most iconic presidents.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he was a slaveholder too.
Correct.
So now we can have these conversations because
Which we should be.
we have this huge, amazing monument, which is actually really scary when you're sitting at the bottom of it. I thought
I
it was
told
scary.
Andre I've never
Giant
been to the
faces.
East Coast to see any of that stuff. I would love to do that.
Yeah,
one day.
it's really fantastic stuff to see. But then you're saying, okay, so it sparks those conversations. What should we do with this information? Should we tear it down? Should we just print out the truth of what the entirety of these people did? Like,
Right.
what's the best way to do that? And we wouldn't have had that conversation without these types of informational stuck in your faces.
Yeah.
Right. The way
Yes.
that this show
For sure.
presents its ideas, having all of these people of color portray these legends that are from our history books, it extra supremely humanizes them, right? And
They
so
aren't perfect.
it
They
ma-
weren't.
right, but it makes you see that they were like regular men
Yep.
who were trying to do so much for so many people.
And trying to do something extraordinary, honestly.
Yes, exactly. They
The
were
impossible, because at that time, this was unheard of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So putting it all into that perspective, and also letting you know that these dudes weren't perfect, right? Like at all. Like they were all humanly flawed and historically flawed. They did own slaves and keep them, and for Jefferson's case, bang a lot of them. They
He had
did
so many kids.
they
and
did all
slaves.
of that, and this show is able to bring that to light in a fun and super entertaining way.
And make you search out more information.
Right.
Because I'm not into history, and I was like researching things. I wanted to get the book The Hamilton Affair just because I thought all of that was so freaking interesting.
That
with
might be like
Mariah
the
Reynolds.
most important thing that this show can do for an audience member, is to go like, well, I gotta go look up a whole bunch of stuff
Which
about
is-
what happened
yeah,
in
yeah,
1776.
exactly.
It's funny because the moment that the show ended, Luis said, I really liked this.
Mhm.
But then he started doing some research and he saw, and this is, I mean, we know our Luis, right? We
Yeah.
know who he is and how he is because he's such a rule follower. He didn't like that, Angelica's character was already married and that
Yeah.
it wasn't historically accurate. He didn't like that was taken out of context. So he was like, well, it's not historically accurate. And I was like, so you don't have a problem that, like, there's people of color playing white people,
Right.
but like was like, no, I don't have a problem with that.
George
So-
Washington just rapped 40 bars, dude.
Pretty sure.
They're
George.
introducing themselves in the third person. Okay, so
So it's interesting because depending on how you internalize the information, you're going to be seeking out different things.
Right.
And
yeah, and
It's
I mean
just-
it's for entertainment at its core.
sure,
So, like you said, he was like, I'm taking some creative liberty here because guess what? It was
can.
way more interesting to him if she wasn't married. You know what I mean? Like it's more drama
Right.
and let's be real. Most things are loosely based in entertainment. So, all right. So Emily, here's this article.
Well, and I didn't and pause
Go
real
ahead.
fast. I didn't think that. Again, I think it's interesting how people portray things because to me, I didn't think that was like a main theme of the show.
Mhm.
But Luis was like, that was totally a main theme to me.
Oh, it definitely was to me
Like
too.
he thought it was like a total important main theme.
Right.
That
Especially because then when he had the affair with Mariah Reynolds, and I was like, well, why wasn't he fucking Angelica then? Like he
Oh,
should have
see?
cheated with Angelica.
To me, I was
like
just-
it heck, it made me mad that I was like offended that
if
he
he's
had an
gonna
affair.
cheat, he better cheat with this girl, not
So
the other
you
girl.
gonna be writing letters for years and years, and then you just gonna fuck some other girl? What
Yeah,
the
I was like hella offended that he had an affair with not Angelica.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
Luis thought it was very important, and I was like, and what to me that wasn't like the
Yeah.
well,
most
I
important part.
really liked Angelica. Like
So
even when I
but
watched it the
see,
first
isn't
time,
that-
so I was hecka pissed
Isn't
for her.
that
I was
funny
like,
though?
Right.
you gotta
That
fuck
like
this.
we think different parts of the story like attract you.
Yeah, and it's
and-
what you relate to and
which
what
I
you
think
get
is just-
drawn to.
Yeah. So he was like, oh no,
And
fuck
now,
no.
now
That's
I know the
hilarious. I
name
love that.
Angelica Schuyler. You know, the
Who the heck are the
sister
Schuyler
of the wife
sisters?
of a dude who never became president.
See-
You know, isn't that crazy?
I didn't know who the Schuyler sisters were. Also, I kept wanting to say Stuhler every time the things were on the
For
screen. I was like,
sure.
why don't you
Who
spell
else-
your name like
who
Schuyler?
else was
Yeah,
the
I would have
subtitles?
spelled it all like that white boy.
I know.
from junior high,
Schuyler.
So,
SKY, baby.
on InsideTheMagic.net, I don't know if you read stuff off of them, there was an article posted on July 7th, hashtag cancel Hamilton, trends after Disney Plus release. It has been less than a week since Hamilton has released on Disney Plus, and people are already taking to social media demanding Disney to take it down. The reasons being that the musical showcases America's founding fathers in a positive, glorifying light, despite the fact that they had faults, including many of them being slave owners, which they touched on.
Well, they didn't touch on the fact that they were slaveholders.
They
I mean-
wanted, can we cancel Hamilton for glorifying our racist founding fathers and painting America as a good country because America's not a good country? Another said, can't believe Disney is showing a show about a slave trader in times like this. Also, the actors aren't the same color as the people they are portraying. How dare they?
Right. It's
Well,
kind of like
That's kind of the point.
the
It's a
whole point of
metaphor.
the show.
But all right.
Okay.
Are y'all ready to talk about how problematic Hamilton is? Posted another. Lin-Manuel created a piece of work that used hip-hop, a genre created by black people, to tell the story of colonizers and slave owners.
Right.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, to
but, like, they're upset about
To
it.
an extent, but also everything we just said.
right, to all of this criticism, I think anyone on that show could tell you that, like, yeah, and now you're aware. Right? Like that's kind of the whole thing is that like the history books that you read in school also glorified those leaders.
For sure.
And they also failed to mention their worst atrocities and that they were slave owners and stuff like that. And they did it in a way more boring way.
Way more boring way.
And they did it in a way that made you glorify
Right.
them. This, to me, I don't see any of these characters being glorified.
Damns
I-
all of
I
them.
saw that Alexander's life freaking sucks
Yeah, I looked
most
at
of the
Louise
time.
I
So
looked at Louise and I was like, "This man's a fucker."
He's
like,
a whole
I
he's a mess.
I
even he
don't
was
know,
annoying
like
to me the
him.
whole time. Like
I don't
know,
like him. He's an issue. He like maybe he didn't like cheat America's funds, but he cheated on his wife.
Oh,
Right.
He's
as
not a good
soon
man.
as he cheated, I was like, "Fuck this dude." I looked at Andre was like, "I fucking hate Alexander Hamilton, you piece
Well,
of shit."
but I think-
say no to this?
But I think that's
You
what
say no, bitch.
I think that's what makes it a really good story is that none of them are, like you said right at the beginning, none of them are perfect.
Right.
They're
No.
completely human, and I call them the storybooks, our history books, make them into storybook
yeah, I think.
White Knight
Right.
or White.
I think this
They make them
portrayed
into
them,
legends and heroes.
even
Yeah.
a
They're
little bit
superheroes.
more accurately in that sense. And this is what Lynn said. He said, when you write a musical that brushes against against sort of the origins of this country, it's always going to be relevant. The fights we had at the origin are the fights we're still having, which is sad. You know what I mean? In regards to slavery. Also, here's some crazy facts. Critics have already given the musical rave reviews. According to Broadway.com, the show has grossed $650 million in ticket sales since it opened in 2015. Also, over the 4th of July weekend, the Disney Plus app was reportedly downloaded over 513,000 times globally. 266,000 just by Americans looking to watch Hamilton.
Are you telling me
that
513 million people already didn't have Disney Plus?
Yes. That is a 72.4% increase over the past 4 weeks.
72%.
That's insane.
I didn't realize that there was 72% of the globe that
who
didn't
hadn't have it,
Disney Plus.
Yeah, what y'all doing?
You weren't binge watching Phineas and Ferb?
Right?
Yeah. If anything, I honestly think, well, I guess this was supposed to come out in the theaters of October of 2021.
Correct.
And I'm happy that Disney was like, no, let's put it out right now on 4th of July weekend. So kudos to them because it is sparking conversations, especially in our political era and climate.
Yeah. So
and
Disney,
I needed it.
Disney
I liked it.
bought the rights to the video production of this a few years ago, and they bought it for like $75 million, which is like the most that anything has ever been spent on like a Broadway before. And yeah, they were planning to release it in 2021 in theaters. You know, this exact same thing that we saw, I assume. And now they decided to release it early for streaming services, and I think it's probably the best thing that they ever could have done for the musical. I bet more people have seen it now than ever saw it on Broadway.
Oh, for sure. And just the accessibility. I think he said, like, we're only accessing 1,300 people a night in the theater, and Broadway is geared towards the rich, especially in New York. You can't afford to go.
Right. All the
or you're
celebrities
waiting
saw
outside
it.
for lottery tickets or things like that, where it's like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to spend $500 on a ticket. So I hope they do this for more Broadway musicals.
Well,
honestly,
it's funny
because
that you say that
I love
because
it.
I preferred this style over
Like a movie.
over a normal movie for things like Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
Because when you take such a complex musical theatrically, not theatrically like on screen, but theatrically in the actual theater, and then you try to put it on stage, it's hard to like keep the grandiosity.
I agree with you. I prefer to like watch the stage production in a movie format. I did that with Oklahoma with Hugh Jackman as the main character, where they filmed like the musical, and that was turned into a movie. And I love that version of Oklahoma. But if you watch the movie version of Oklahoma, I don't give two shits. Like it's not the same. It's not as good.
But
so
then,
I agree with that.
But then like the opposite, like for Rent, where it's an extremely simple stage, I guess. Like I feel like the opposite is almost better because you can walk down a city street versus just walking like 2 feet down.
So that it just depends on the context because they're going to make Into the Heights into a movie, and I think that'll work because, like you said, it's a city and stuff like that. Or it worked with Newsies because it's like a city context. So I do agree with you.
If only they hadn't made Mamma Mia into a real movie.
Luis loves Mamma Mia. You shut your fucking mouth.
I do not like Mamma Mia.
You don't like ABBA then.
I do like ABBA, which is the thing. And then that movie, it like just bores me to tears.
Meryl? Bores you?
Wake me up,
Oh,
Meryl.
is it Hamilton has a rating on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yes, it does. So on Rotten Tomatoes, since it's been released as a movie, technically, on Disney Plus, it has a 99% on a tomato meter.
Are they just grading it on how it was shot? Like,
I mean, no. The critics who are reviewing it as a movie that they could watch any other kind of movie, they're reviewing it as a movie. So they're reviewing the story, the characters, the acting, all that stuff. It's a 99% based on 158 reviews, and the critics' consensus says, look around at how beautifully Hamilton shines beyond Broadway, and at how marvelously Thomas Kail captures the stage show's infectious energy.
Yeah, give me those face close-ups. I love those shots.
It was done well.
It looks really cool. I can see all the veins popping out of Angelica's neck. And
for sure,
gorgeous.
man.
10 out of 10 recommend.
That
girl got pipes, and you can see them.
She does.
She sings with, like,
Everything.
just ferocious.
Her diaphragm.
Yeah.
she
Well,
gives
yeah.
Her all.
Technically, it's very beautiful. Luis, would you like to say anything about King George?
Guy was hella funny. I like how he moved like he was a pretzel.
Pretzel.
I don't know what that means, but I appreciate it.
I love it.
All right.
Never gonna be president. wait, do the dance again, babe.
President
Never gonna be president
Oh
now.
God, we need to record that shit. Luis is even laughing.
So friggin' funny. All right, you guys. I think that has been it. That's been our review
Was that
of,
like a full
of
episode
Hamilton.
now?
We did 45 minutes.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So this is the Patreon show. Tell your friends. Let us know what you thought of this episode and what you want us to review next. There's a whole bunch of stuff on Disney Plus that's not necessarily like straight up Disney movies. And I don't know if you guys want us to check some of that stuff out.
The X-Men movies
There's
on there
movies
now.
on there. There's Fantastic Four on there. There's like National Geographic stuff on there. You know, all kinds of stuff. So if you want,
I'm not doing a National Geographic
Yeah,
one. You
yeah,
take that
yeah,
shit
yeah,
back.
put 'em on.
Hey, Andre and I watched a bunch of anacondas attacking humans the
I
other day
know
on
you
YouTube.
do. You guys
It's
are
pretty
weird.
sick,
I'm
dude.
It's
not
not weird.
watching
I love that
shit.
shit.
a whole
No.
barracuda on your arm. You know what I'm saying?
You guys
Yeah.
keep saying things that make me think of the Trolls World Tour movie because we just watched it.
What happens with the
Did you
barracuda?
love it?
No, they sing the song Barracuda.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Barracuda.
You got me dead on my knees, now wouldn't you?
Barracuda.
Barracuda.
Ding 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 ding. What is this? Guitar Hero.
Ow.
Right?
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Crack in the Vault. Tell your friends that the show exists, and if you want us to review extra stuff, let us know what you want.
Did you hear
What'd she
Adeline?
say?
What you say?
Adeline is supposed to be. I'm whispering into the mic.
What'd she say?
She's supposed to be asleep, and she heard me sing that song,
Oh, she heard.
She
She
said
heard me sing it?
barracuda.
and she goes, "Sing that song!" from the other room.
She's your daughter.
She goes, "Sing that song! Sing that song!" My kid loves it.
All right, y'all. Sing that song. This has been a Crack in the Vault. The crack has been cocked. Bye.